Hey everyone, before we start the show, I just want to get some plugs out of the way. If you enjoy this podcast and you're into wrestling, check out the Nerds and Marks podcast or Marty and Sarah Love Wrestling. If you're not getting your fill on movie and entertainment discussion, then check out the Entertainment Buffet podcast. If you want to dive into the world of video games, I highly recommend the Darkcast by my friends over at darkstation.com. Listen to them cover important topics and interview men and women from all over the industry. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Hello everyone and welcome to today's shelved mini episode. I am your host, Jeremy Meyer. Now there's a lot of downloads on the Star Wars commentary track, which leads me hopeful for this week's episode, because this week's episode is another commentary track. I've teased for a while of looking at the DC EU, that's DC Extended Universe, I guess, film series, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, all those. And I'm gonna start doing that this week. Now this is one that I am going to revisit again because this episode I did solo. It's just little old me sitting down and watching Man of Steel and recording a commentary track. Now I haven't seen Man of Steel since it came out, so I wanted to do a little refresher. Because it's been a while since that one, whereas all the other DC movies are fairly recent. So I thought it'd be good to do a refresher on that one and kind of just see where I stand before getting into all of the other DC movies. So this week is just a commentary track with just me as I watch and comment on Man of Steel. And it was a lot of fun to do it, actually. I know it could sound a little boring, me doing it by myself, but I actually had a lot of fun doing it. It was interesting to revisit that movie, having very strong opinions of it and having not seen it in a long time. And now that these other movies are out, like, oh, do I have a different perspective on it? Like, considering what came afterwards. So it was a lot of fun to do, and I think you'll have a lot of fun listening to it. So that's all that's going to be going on this week. I don't really have a lot to say on this mini episode, so it's going to be a real mini one. But I will say I did watch the new Game of Thrones, and I really loved it. I've heard some complaints from people, and I think it's coming off of season 6, which had like some of the most epic action scenes in the whole franchise. And this season, it was all just set up for the rest of the season, which is pretty much par for the course for a Game of Thrones premiere, so I'm not really sure what people were expecting. It does have a really interesting opening with Arya, and that's kind of the only little bit of action you get in the episode, but I really enjoyed it. The last line of the episode and that whole moment leading up to it was the highlight for me. I thought it was the best part, and it was great. Like, I don't really have any complaints. I'm very excited for this season. Can't wait to see where it goes. I'm not going to really spoil anything here. Me and my wife have been catching up on, so we were watching it together like a long time ago, and we got up to season 3 and just kind of stopped, and then eventually I kind of caught up and finished the rest of the show, and she never did. So recently we've been watching it together and trying to catch her up because she's now getting interested in what's going on now, so she wants to catch up, see what's going on. So eventually we might do like a season by season breakdown of Game of Thrones, just like, oh, here we are leading up to the new season, or that'll probably end up happening around like the last season of the show at the rate we're going. But it is fun to go back and rewatch that stuff with her and kind of catch her up, and I know everything now, so I can sit there and answer all of her questions, because everybody knows that show is just crazy confusing as fuck. So it's good that if even on this rewatch, I'm still picking up new stuff, and that's a great thing about the show is there is so much going on that every time you watch it, you are going to pick up on new things, and I've definitely been doing that, and I've been enjoying all of it. I love rewatching it. it's one of those things that we're like, I get kind of sick of it until the new season starts, and it's just like, man, I could watch Game of Thrones forever. So, yeah, that's basically what's going on this week. I don't have a lot of updates currently. I am planning the next script episode, which is going to be Castlevania, written by Paul W.S. Anderson, the guy who did the Resident Evil movies and Mortal Kombat. At one point, he was going to do a Castlevania movie that never happened, and I have that script. And there's the new Castlevania series on Netflix, which I really want to watch because I've never really played a lot of Castlevania, but I've always been interested. So I'm gonna watch the series, or I'm gonna cover the script. And I wish I could have timed it better, but Netflix never really gave us a release date for that series, so it just kind of dropped one day. So unfortunately, I couldn't time it to the series, but it's still relevant, so I still want to get that checked out. I'm not sure when that episode is going to be coming, but just keep your ears open for that. And if you're interested, watch the Netflix series, because I am going to watch that, and I'll probably talk about that first. Maybe I'll power through that and watch it, or talk about it next week. Because it is only 4 episodes and only 20 minutes long. So, but that's going to be it for today's itty bitty mini episode. I want to tell everybody to rate and review us on iTunes, because that's what gets the show in front of people, gets us more viewers. We had we had a big turnout for the Star Wars commentary episode, so I'm really happy about that. So thanks everybody who's been checking that out, and please let me know if you like it. Hit me up on Twitter, which is at Shelved Podcast, or you could hit us up on Instagram at Shelved Podcast. You can email us at Shelved Film Podcast. I really want to know if people like these commentary episodes, because there's going to be quite a few of them coming up, and then they are going to get spaced out a little bit, but I like doing them, and if people don't like listening to them or doing all that, I won't continue to do them, because obviously I'm not here to just put out a bunch of content that nobody wants to listen to. And even if it's one of those things I do still want to do, despite people not liking them, maybe I'll find another venue for it. But yeah, just let me know. I will probably put out a poll on Twitter, and people can vote on that if they like hearing them. But in the meantime, thank you for listening. Be sure to write those reviews. Check us out on our social medias. And I do want to say, George Romero passed away yesterday at 77, and that was a real bummer. Those Living Dead movies, those were always like really important to me. I love the series, some of them more than others, but we wouldn't have shows like The Walking Dead and things like Resident Evil without him. He created the modern zombie movie, and all the rules for zombie movies still stem from his original films, and it was a big loss. It was a big shock, and honestly, Martin Landau, it was announced later in the night, with 2 in one day. Those are 2 legends that are gone, and our sympathies with their families. Those were big shocks. I was not expecting either of those, so that's gonna be kind of what I'm gonna close out on a real depressing note. But thank you for listening, and be sure to check out this week's commentary track for the first DCEU film, Man of Steel.